reason I'm here today is to question this circular economy model that you are all experts in, and I could sense that yesterday night. So I'm not going to dig into circular economy because there is no point. But the question is it really well designed? I mean, and the second question is where are we in this model? I mean, where are we as humans? And I will go through some of my thoughts, some of my way of thinking, and you tell me if I'm wrong. That's the objective of the session, is to discuss, okay, to exchange. And I just want to make sure that we don't make a second mistake, okay? We've made a major mistakes with this linear model. I just want to make sure we are all, I mean, in our own individual understanding of what is the best way to implement circular economy in your own culture, in your own country. If it's applicable in your country, obviously. Quickly, I just put back the logo of the African Circular Economy Network because we have some discussions around last night. So I've co-founded with South African people when I lived 8 years in South Africa. So I co-founded the African Circular Economy Network, and one of the main objectives is to gather data, to share those data so that we can design circular economies for as many countries or as many territories as they are in Africa. Anthesis is just my employer, so I'm being paid right now, but I'm not supposed to do what I'm doing. Circular Humansphere. Well, I say once out of twice. The Circular Humansphere is what we're going to talk about today, and I happen to do some equitable circular economy module in these schools. So this is the circular. There's no remote.
No, sorry.
Okay. We are in Troyes, yes. So this is the circular economy as you know it. I'm not going to go into the details. The objective is restorative, to make sure the economy is restorative by design and intention, based on renewable energy where possible, rebuilding natural capital, and moving away from chemicals so that we can reuse those goods and services again and again. The issue I have with this model is that, first of all, we again talk about economic growth. I mean, it's growth within, but it's still the objective of sustainable development as the post-war concept of economically developing countries so that we can sell more. So I have an issue with that. Maybe we can talk about it. And the second thing I have an issue with is that this is your linear backbone, and the biosphere and the technosphere. The second issue I have is that once again we are consumers and users, and I don't want to be consumer and user. I want to be a social being. I want to be considered a human with all what it means to be a human, humus, and basically I'm not happy to be at the bottom of this mechanical systemic concept. And I just questioned that back in 2013, 2014, and tried to, after my questions, try to bring some answers, and maybe the answers are wrong, but you tell me. So the questions that I'm asking myself is, why do we want to achieve this model versus another one? I mean, is this the right one? Again, we cannot make any mistakes this time. What is it for? Is it worth the investment? I mean, is it still for us to be considered users and consumers, or is it for something else? I mean, is it designed for all of us, for well-being, or food consciousness, as we talked yesterday, or is it for something else? And are we going to improve life of humans and non-humans on the planet? That's a question. And where are solutions considered circular? In fact, I'm going to look at the screen like this. So in the wider ecosystem, all elements and all beings have a function to play and to activate and a role to play. So we need to understand how this ecosystem works and how do we fit within these ecosystems. If you look at, if you compare humans and the ants, which one are weight the most? The humans or the 7.6 billion humans or all the ants on the planet? Which one are heavier? The ants, yeah. Good question, good answer. So the ants, they are heavier than 7.6 billion people on the planet. But they are far more clever because every day they regenerate the ecosystem on which they depend on to live. And the question is, how can we maintain conditions conducive to life on this planet? Because, I mean, no pointing, but Western economics have been destroying the planet so far, I mean, like never before. And we need to reconsider the way we are thinking about this economic model. And one of the issues, and again we talked about it yesterday night, is that we have, I mean, in Western economics and in Western beliefs, we want to maximize our life on Earth, from birth to death, okay? And so we want to have friends, families, as many people as we want. I mean, LinkedIn is a good example, and I'm the worst one on that. And basically the decisions are for myself, okay? Between life and death, I want to decide to enjoy to the maximum, whatever I want, okay? So I will travel all over the world, I will spend as much as I can, and enjoy as much as I want. So it's a very short-term approach, and everything is around myself, okay? So it's a very selfish, individualistic model. And this model has been destroying the planet for the past 100 years. And there are other models, and one of the models that got me thinking is this, what we call the 7 generations model, where people, I mean, that's from the North American indigenous tribes there, where the Lakotas, for instance, they use decentration. So decentration is this ability to not to think for yourself, but this ability to ask ancients, I mean the ancestors, their point of view, okay, about something, a decision that you will make in your life as a decision maker. And these are huge decisions. I mean, these are lifelong decisions. And they will also ask the people unborn yet, so the great-grandchildren, their point of view as to whether my decision will preserve life on the planet and will grow the ecosystems so that your life conditions will be preserved when you get born, okay? And this is, we are here on the extra long-term decision-making process. And this is very much aligned with ecosystems. So question mark is that these models are there and they are being studied. I read about a Swiss, I can share with you, a Swiss researcher working on decentration. So part of the human sphere is based on what I call collective decentration, because we will have to learn and to help our leaders to understand that every decision they make will have to be on the extra long term to follow the ecosystem's rules. And what we learn from the ecosystems, where we learn that everything in this tree, I mean 80–90% of the leaves and the branches of this tree is not for its own survival. It's not even for its, how do you say, progeniture? Not children. No, the baby trees. Anyway, not even for its baby trees, but it's for the entire ecosystems. In fact, the tree has a function here, transforming the solar energy, sun energy into photosynthesis to make it function. And most of the branches and the flowers are there to protect the birds, the insects, regenerate the soils around itself, and create a complete ecosystem. So it's all interdependent. And that tree teaches about collaboration. And it also explains that, in nature, competition is the exception. In fact, most of the time, and we understood it wrong again, most of the time it's about collaboration between species, because competition uses too much energy. Okay, and some biomimicry experts explain that far better than me. So we all know about this issue that we face, and it's quite well shared by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. But this is again the nexus environment, economy. And my question is, where are we there? I understand that we are cruising with the fish, but where are we in this picture? And how are we going to change ourselves to make sure that we are ready for such a model? And we need to also understand, bless you, we need to also understand that regenerative systems is not about AI, robots, and all these nice things that we hear from Wuhan, where people living in Wuhan are being followed and their mobile phone no longer works because they left the city discreetly and the government switched off their phone. So they don't even know where to sleep at night because they cannot no longer book their hotel. So it's not about AI and robots, it's about regenerative systems, natural systems. And this is where we need to go. But everybody, at least a lot of talks in circular economy are there, whereas we need to go there, okay, in the shadowed space there. So living systems and fully regenerative, i.e. ecosystemic solutions. So this is for the where we need to go with the environment / economic nexus. But where are we? This model, this circular economy model, the economy today, the linear economy is super efficient. No question about that. It's super efficient, but we are missing the resilient part, okay? All living systems lives into a balance between efficiency and effectiveness or resilience. And the thing is that on top of our environmental problems and the relation that we have with the environment, especially in the Western world, because we claim that what's happening outside in that bush or in that forest is called nature, but in fact we are nature, so we created some frontiers between us and nature, whereas we are all the same. But besides that, from when you look the social situation from an inequity point of view, this is a very dramatic picture. The world has never been so unequal, and if the next economic model does not solve that, what's the point? I'd rather stay in linear economy, because here you have Africa, Southeast Asia there, then Latin America, US, Europe, and then the 1% richest people on the planet. And if you develop AI, Google, and all these things, sure, it's going to be efficient, sure, it's going to make your life easy, and they will find hotels for you. You will not even have to think about it. But the thing is that they will control your data. They will have all the power on their side, and we know that communities in the world, if they don't access resources, if they don't access know-how and knowledge, if there is no equity in managing that, we will continue creating an unequal world, and this is where we're going. So, and this is a study made by Handy. handy is this human nature dynamics. This is financed by MESA. They looked at how nature works. This is your standard predator-prey model. Okay, when the wolf eats all the rabbits, the wolf population diminishes. You can access this research, and they are working on the next one. But it's your new limits to growth model, basically. Okay, so this is how nature functions, and this is how human interaction functions. And you see that the gray line is where the wealth is, and nature is collapsing at some stage. The commoners are your workers and the people, the labor, and the elites are the 1%, soon to be a bit more. And you see that the commoners disappear, natures recover, and the elites skyrocket. But there's no more commoners on the planet because they've disappeared. They went too poor in a too unequal world, and this is the collapse that we expect to have. Not the environmental collapse, but the social collapse. I mean, the inequitable collapse. Before we see the environmental collapse, this one will happen. So the issue is that if circular economy doesn't solve that, what's the point? So the question is, let's take the reasoning in circular economy. I mean, we talk about negative externalities, and so waste, pollution. So we have our linear economy here. Linear economy makes its money on scarcity. Okay, the more if that share is scarce, if there is only one share, and we have to fight at 10 to get seated, obviously the price of the share will go up. So it's based on scarcity. And whereas circular economy is based on abundance, we create abundance of flow. Okay, this share will be accessed more time. With the waste and pollution at its core. Okay, so we think and we design and we do design thinking, circular thinking, based on that. I mean, how are we going to solve the waste and the pollution issue? Based on the biosphere circular loops and technosphere loops. But the question is, where is this inequality, designing out inequality and poverty? Obviously, these are big words, but why not? I mean, waste and pollution are a huge concept as well to design out of systems. So on top of negative externalities, which are environmentally linked, I would add unemployment, inequalities, poverties, I mean, you name it, I mean. And obviously, Kate Raworth in the Doughnut Economy points on these inequalities as well. So the question is, can we add somehow the social dimension, which seems to be missing, so that we don't create a new economic model, but we create an ecosystemic model, a model of life. And obviously, it will attract less the Dells and the Googles of this planet, but maybe we would do something a bit more reasonable, if I may say. So the thing is that circular economy may be equitable or may not be equitable. Okay, it's not mandatory. Here in this famous brand, which I name, it's a close approach. Okay, I don't know where I put my phone. But basically, the question is. If this thing is circular, will it increase my happiness and my well-being on this planet? And we need to ask the question. So this one is circular, but everything is controlled. Okay, it comes to your country, opens licensed shop, hire 10, 15 people in the shop, sells you phones that you cannot open, and once the phone needs a repair, you pay for the repair. You go to that shop because the shops in the street, you don't know if they will damage your $1,300 phone or not, and you get it repaired. 6 months later, you come back to the shop, and they tell you need to change it because we cannot repair it. Buy something, buy a new phone. They send the phone to China or the US, and it's a robot dismantling the phone. where are the humans? Okay, human activity needs to be there in 10 billion world planet. We need to have some kind of human activities, and I'm not saying human activity the Fordism way. I'm saying with universal revenue or free social basic systems or whichever. I mean, different ways to develop human activity. So here, there's no leakages, and my president loves an economy with lots of leakages, and he claims that today there is plenty of beneficial ecosystem creating from economic activity, but this is not the case. And here you have this Fairphone, and you are welcome to open it. I mean, the Fairphone does two things. It grants you access in an open source way to the phone component. So all of a sudden, I mean, if your country has low, limited access to resources, raw materials and so on, all of a sudden it becomes your urban mining sources, okay? Because you calculate millions of units of computer, mobile phone, TVs, and you name it. So it's plenty of component and raw materials readily available. And the second thing that it does is that they say you should repair the phone yourself. Obviously, you and me will not go and repair the phone on the Sunday morning. We have other things to do. But when you go down the street from your flat, you will see plenty of shops, repair shops, that will be specialized in Fairphone and other brands, and they will soon come. Because they will say, oh, we prefer repairing that phone because we can unscrew everything and we can replace all the parts. And on top of that, in 6 months down the line, they will say, oh, I can help you with the new photo module because I know you love photographs. I can improve the module, and off you go. They can sell valid added services. So, thinking about the circular economy way, because that's the idea here, is to say circular economy sees stocks of resources and flows of energies, okay? And we need to understand our stocks of resources and flows of energies in our countries, because it's not the same in France and in Colombia or elsewhere, and it's not even the same in northern France, southern France, and so on. So we need two territories. We need to understand we need to understand the stocks and the flows, okay? But we have these two spheres. And the question is, can we also include a third sphere? And maybe it will, I'm not saying it's mandatory, but I'm just saying, how about seeing humans as resources, not resources to the economy, resources to the planet, and stocks of energies, and flows of energies, sorry. And when you look at that, you say, oh, this sphere is decreasing, dramatically disappearing, the biosphere. This one we will have a hard time to maintain it as it is. And this one is increasing very fast, 7 billion to 10 billion. So is it good news? And then how about monitoring, evaluating, valuing these flows, and like a dashboard, understanding, oh, I've got an excess of humans, maybe instead of having this chair made by robots, maybe I should think in a collaborative way and have human energies involved as well. So the point is to say, instead of developing a model which is preserving the foundations of economic growth, how about preserving a model, looking at a model which is about people's needs, addressing people's needs, and in people's needs, you just deliver what people need, okay? So it's reduce is there. There is avoid, and then there is reduce. And if you just deliver a phone which takes photos, and not like I tweeted yesterday in La Défense, where there is this beautiful brand saying, this is the new phone with 5 cameras in it. I mean, 5 cameras in millions of pockets of people who just share photos on Facebook and Twitter. I mean, excuse me, what's the point? So this is, I mean, we should sue these companies because this is crime against humanity. Basically, I mean, they are ruining the planet and their communities, and nobody is doing anything about that. So the point is to say, can we have this full consciousness or well-being at the core of the model? And by including humans, I see three things. You include a complexity within the model, obviously. And with complexity, with complex elements, there's no solutions, but at least we can try to scroll through it. I see three elements with humans, is that first of all, we are nature, okay? In some of your cultures, this is obvious, but in our culture, it's not obvious. So we are nature, and we need to reconnect with that nature, okay? There's no separation, but this would bridge us to the biosphere and try to think about us as nature. And by saying we are nature, I put the woman symbol, but obviously we can change it with the man, but women are, this is a feminine model, so that's the regenerative part. We are nature, we are resources for the planet, as well as flows of energy, okay? And we can use that flow of energy to rebuild the biosphere. When we sleep and we eat every day, we are renewed energy, okay? At ambient temperature, we are not, obviously we breathe, but we are there. And can we think about us as circular systems? Yesterday we ate and we drink, and it was great. But the phosphate, the potassium, and the azote we dearly need for agriculture is here, okay? It's passing by through here. So if we consider ourselves as circular beings, maybe we could rethink about the models of tomorrow and try to understand how this can work out. So deep adaptation. And then here valuing all humans. This phone is this one is great, but who can access it in some countries? Or even in my countries, it's not accessible for everybody. So can we think about developing an economy with people's needs at the core, so that it's made for all humans as well? And here we are considered energy, okay? Endless energy, like I just said. Then the feedback loop from the biosphere into the human sphere is about monitoring evolution, where this is all going at the planetary level, so it's more like scientific feedback. And advancing humanity, it's an addition of, we would be advancing humanity if we adapt deep enough, and if we value enough all the people on this planet. So that's how we could advance humanity, at least as I think. And you correct me if I'm wrong, but we can discuss. And the thing is that when you look at that, well, scarcity is here. Scarcity are my limited elements on this planet, okay? The goods that we share between us in the economic system. And abundance is here. All of these are renewed constantly, okay? So we need to preserve abundance in circular systems. And by adding these humans in between, maybe we can. The third aspect of the human sphere is that it's empathy. Okay, we need to change conscious and our mind, the way we think, because if we don't change ourselves first, nothing is going to happen. A circular economy, you're going to circulate goods, but you're not going to address the issue of this world. So nature, empathy, and energy. So to change, to reconsider ourselves, and to sort out the problems within us and by ourselves. And this is a lot about changing the way we think on our mind and conscious. And if you look at, and then if you include the humans in this model, all of a sudden maybe your government could play with taxes, with incentives, and look at like a dashboard I was saying earlier, saying, oh, I've got plenty of renewable energy, maybe I should de-tax labor, tax these chairs because the materials, the raw materials in these chairs is getting scarce, and by taxing those chairs, I will preserve the raw materials in those chairs and therefore make them available for repair. So we could create a lot of restorative jobs by playing with taxes and incentives. And we could look at how to value and to change the indicators of our economic systems so that we value activities that rebuild the ecosystem. And it's far easier in an economy based on services than an economy based on product, because my jeans here, these are mud jeans from the Netherlands, and this is our mud jeans in France, Lemille 83. It's made of sea plastic, and this is made of bike tire. But basically, am I satisfied to wear something made of sea plastic? No. Okay, so it's not really the end. It's just the beginning of the process. In an economy of product, the product is as a fixed price. Okay, it's 49 euro. You can afford it, good. You can't afford it, too bad. Okay. So whereas in an economy of service, where these mud jeans circulate and is considered denim stock, okay, for in Europe, so that we can remake the denim into jeans and redistribute those jeans within Europe. Then, after some years, the price of my jeans as a service disappear. I don't know how much it costs because the jean has been paid so many times. Okay, I had mud jeans, but it cracked after 1 year, so it was not a good experience, but still. We could move as well from an economy of reacting, I get sick so I get treated, into an economy of preventing, an economy that cares. And we can also move into, if your product system services or product as a service is offered, the washing machine is offered as per wash, and you pay per wash. Why not offering the machine later on over 5 years to some families that cannot really afford the machine per wash in the early days? So maybe they can afford 40 cents per wash instead. I don't know about the price, I'm just giving it as an example. And maybe later on this machine has been the same machine and not evolving from a technology point of view, but just being maintained. Maybe after 10 years, 15 years, the same machine could be offered for free to people. Maybe against saying, okay, maybe in 2-3 I help you out, but in 2-3 years you become my customer or something like that. But you can include more people in a service-based economy than it is in a product-based economy. So you have these two bottom strategies, which are mainly behavioral change strategies. Okay, we need to value everything, value the product that we need to maintain, and value the people that needs to have economic activities or ecosystemic activities, and we need to adapt deeply to our ecosystems. And one way to do that is that we need to value abundance. Okay, so we need to value abundance, like we saw earlier, and ban scarcity. And obviously play on the tax and play on the mindset shift with the biosphere. One way to do that, some examples are in Sweden, for instance. They dropped the VAT on businesses that are made for repairing goods. In Germany, they reintroduce humans, employees in the Mercedes S-Class factory. And in the Netherlands, you can be paid to cycle. For the story, it was an idea that was born in France, in Paris, but the Dutch people implemented it quicker, and it's still not yet implemented in France. So you could look at human energy in that way, but how about going a bit further into saying, okay, you drop tax on the business for repair, but about dropping tax on labor, so that all of a sudden you have plenty of repair shops, and you obviously against taxation of scarce resources. And again, the Dutch government is looking at the tax systems that suggest to de-tax labor and tax resource scarcity, and they are well balanced in terms of the statement. So an interesting proposal. How about taxing scarce resources for Mercedes-Benz? And maybe the model could generate a lot of benefits. And how about recovering human energy when these cyclists are passing by shops or street to light up those streets? In terms of adaptation to the ecosystems, we've proven that we can do it. If we value humans as renewable energy to rebuild ecosystems conducive to life, John Lemille, this Chinese-American researcher, has proven that we can rebuild large ecosystems. So this is in Jordan, but he has done the same in Ethiopia. He changed the desert into a lush forest, and now the deers and the fauna and the flora is back with rivers. The same in New Zealand. They have preserved the place in New Zealand, and that's the whole fauna and flora came back. So if, as part of our day week, we can be valued for spending sometimes rebuilding these ecosystems, that could lead to a new approach. Same here, these fishermen in Senegal, they didn't have any fish anymore, and they couldn't work but eat. And the mangroves are protecting the fish where they reproduce themselves within the mangroves. So now they are part of this project, and this is one of the biggest human-made project in terms of rebuilding mangroves. And in China, I love this model, this example, because sometimes people are a bit shocked about it. But there's no more bees in China, in the Sichuan region, and women are hand-pollinating the flower. So in a world where you have an excess of human energy and you have a disappearance of the biosphere, how about recovering and restoring the biosphere thanks to human energy? And maybe think about it differently. So maybe it's good news, but we can discuss. In terms of adaptation to the biosphere, again, we need to become not just circular economy leaders, but ecosystemic leaders. We need to be able to see the ecosystem in 3 dimensions. So here it's the example of a brewery. I come from northern France and we like beer, but this is the example of brewery that put in a systems. Today you are in charge of your brewery, okay? You make beer, full stop, in a siloed approach of the economy. But tomorrow you don't just make beer, you participate into the production of meat, you can develop a mushroom activity, you can develop a biogas activity. From the biogas, have some algae basins, so you can find alternative to plastics, and as well grow some fish for food. So all of a sudden you are just not one siloed CEO, but covering many activities, increasing your resilience. In terms of human adapting to the biosphere, you can have this approach as well. We are here in Berlin. This is Dykel, and Dykel makes diapers from compost, okay, from organic matters. They give the diapers for free to clubs of 100 families. The families create a club, and they say, you are a young family. I guess buying diapers in the shops cost a lot of money. Here are some diapers for free, but it's circular. I need something else in return. And 2-3 times a week, the families agree to drop the full diapers in a place. And these diapers enter into a fermentation process. Okay? So they create a fermentation process to create terra preta. Okay? And terra preta, we found out just 4 or 5 years ago that terra preta, in some part of the Amazonia forest, it's full of terra preta. So Amazonia forest might not have been just the produce of our ecosystems, but a result of the dynamic between humans and adapted humans and our environment. So the Aborigines people did terra preta this way, and they fertile the soil, and maybe that's one of the reasons why Amazonia is so fertile and so tropical. So the human nature dynamics is where the abundance is. And from this terra preta, they grow trees, fruit trees. They make jams, jellies, teas, and juices. The mom enjoys those jam, jellies, teas, and juices, makes baby. The baby makes the poo. The poo enters into a fermentation process, grow tree, makes food, and the mother eats the food. So this is an example why 10 billion people is not exactly the problem, okay? We can be as many people as we can, as we would be in the planet, as long as we are adapted to our ecosystem. Here, the more babies, the better the planet, okay? So the question is not exactly, I mean, obviously, population would need to drop somehow at some stage, or otherwise, but since we are part of nature, it's not anymore the issue of just the number, it's about the behavior, okay? I was very happy one day when I learned that if I get humanized, if I pass away, I can grow 100 trees, because humus, my body can grow, can turn into humus and grow 100 trees. And to me, I'm not scared anymore to die. So that's the great news. And then the two top strategies are, for those who do impact assessment, the distance to strategies. So how far are we from a full circular planet, okay, a full circular systems? So we start from the end. This is what full circularity on the planet means. And we scroll back, I mean, we go backwards, we do backcasting to today to say, okay, these are the decisions we need to take to go to full circularity, okay? So it's the distance to circularity, and here it's the distance to well-being or full consciousness, as in how can we at least give equal chances to people to reach out to a status where they are happier or whatever that means in their life, okay? Now you give them the chance. If they don't grasp the chance, too bad. But at least you give them the chance, not into today's models where there's no chances, whatever. Okay, this is about more about scientific knowledge and predicament, human plans, so how far are we from circularity? And this is, like I mentioned earlier, how deep are we adapted? How far are we going into valuing all people and all product, and measuring well-being as we do. One way to understand this dashboard to circularity would be the Doughnut Economy that you are most probably familiar with. So it's to stay in that safe and just space for humanity. So circular economy so far answers the environment ecological ceiling issue, but what about the social foundation? So if within all your amazing brains you start thinking circularity, including the inner wheel, that would really be great. One of the last slides, I'm nearly done with the presentation, but basically this has been published in Elsevier academic journal, making the circular economy work for human development, and where we explain that this human development model of Amartya Sen is about creating cascades of strengths and capabilities and choices. So one of the issues we saw in the handy human nature dynamic analysis from NASA is that these elites grasp all the resources. So your favorite mobile phone keeps the resources for itself, okay, and do not share those resources. The phone is circular, but the resources are not accessed by anyone but them. Whereas here we say, in human development, we say communities all over the world can only expand and express themselves and reach to some kind of community resilience and belonging and well-being if they have access to resources, okay? So if circular economy is developed in a closed systems, it's not going to happen. and we saw this model that is going to crash. So here we connect circular economy with the human development model, trying to understand how we can include these humans and these questions around humans and access to resources with the circular economy model, and at least making sure these access are granted. Quickly, today circular economy only matches with 7 or 8 SDGs. Here it's all of them, but I removed the SDG 8. In some of your countries, SDG 8 is key, but in Europe, SDG 8, economic growth, is not something that we should take into consideration. So I remove SDG 8. But basically, since we design inequality and poverty as well as waste and pollution out, we have these at the bottom, and then most of them matches with this symbiotic approach of the 3 sphere. Here I'm just adding some priorities. We need to design the circular economic model with human needs at the core, addressing the needs, okay, in a avoid or reduce consumption way as a first strategy, then address those needs, and not sell something which is nonsense. Design not only waste but inequality out by thinking circular, okay, applying the what's my stock of resources and my flows of energies available in my country, and how can I design something which is different from other countries. Maybe AI and robots make sense in America or in China, but maybe it doesn't make sense in the country. Why not? And then avoid consumption rebound. That's the key question, and I don't have a straight answer to avoid consumption rebound, apart from this decentration model. If we don't change our inner self, if we don't change the way we think, we will never going to address the consumption rebound issue. It's impossible, okay? There will always be a good reason to take that flight, because my mobility, I don't have to buy a car anymore, I just have a scooter and that's it. So consumption rebound, in my view, but we can discuss, and I'm open, I'm just not saying this is it, but if you don't change here, nothing is going to happen. And by changing here, the answer is to insert ourselves within the model, consider us as circular beings, and as part of the answer to life equation. This is your life equation. How do we preserve life on Earth? If we don't share that in a simple way with the 10 billion people on the planet, your consumption rebound is going to happen in whichever way you can think of. So decentration is, to me, one way to say, if I have to think and if I have to take decisions where the impact of those decisions are beyond my lifetime, corruption will disappear, okay, and greed will disappear, because it's not decisions that I make for myself, it's decisions that I make for future generations. And therefore, you will see those problematic issues disappearing from the systems. At least we hope. And I thank you for that. I don't know if there's time for questions.
Questions, okay. Questions?
Sorry, it's heavy topics early in the morning.
No, thank you. Is it working? Yes. Thank you very much for the inspiring speech. I missed out on the yoga, but we did some good thinking here. I would like to help you with the question that you gave, because I think you answered it yourself. On the last slide you have the 3 priorities, which I very much like. But using earlier slides in your presentation, I think the answer to your question comes, because you talk about human needs, and you started about the 7th generation approach. So the human needs should be the 7th generation needs, and then you solve the issue at the bottom, I hope. Very looking forward to it.
Definitely.
I have one other question, which was on my mind also during the speech. I very much support the social dimension which you stress with the human sphere in that sense. And I'm not sure clear about what your position is about the strong emphasis that a lot of CE proponents are putting on product service systems, which I always see with a double story in it. You could promote it as a sort of efficiency in environmental impacts by sharing things, which is not always backed up with evidence, I would say, but the other part of the way of looking at this is a further marketization of the user phase of the life cycle, which gives companies more control in our choices. I have to, this is my nuts, it's still working, but James, I have to send it back after a year, actually, which is too early. And so the business model is also a little bit, let's be critical, it's just exploitative as well. So what is your position about promoting product services?
From a control standpoint?
Well, from your general philosophy.
Well, product services, what I like about product services is that, or économie de la fonctionnalité in French, is that we can reduce consumption, but it's not like I was saying about equity. It's not always obvious. Okay, so we have to rely on the provider of the services to make good choices to actually reduce the consumption. But it's not the case because it's economic growth within. So mud jeans intends to grow. Okay, mud jeans do not intend to stay just in Europe. Okay, so that's the issue we have. And if we don't set up some principles or boundaries, we're never going to end this model. So that's why one of the answer to consumption rebound is to change the way we think as well, and that's going to take time. But what I like about product system service is that you can actually reduce consumption. I'll give you an example. In northern France, a printer company tells you is being paid by avoiding to print. Okay, so you come to the printer and you say, I want 1,000 business cards. They will sign the order and they will say, I'm going to print 200. You call me when you need another 100 or 200. If you change job, I change the design of the business card. Okay, and after 1 year, if we haven't printed more than 400 cards, just for what you need, the 600 remaining volume, we will share the revenue. Okay, so I will reimburse you half, and I will keep half. So everybody has an interest not to produce. Okay, and that's product function system, product systems, and that's the way I like it, but solutions are not always the same. So again, it's an open-ended, uncontrolled model. So that's the issue. So again, the answer is by inserting us within that model, can we sort out the life equation on Earth by changing our mindset? If you put the human element into the equation, maybe we will have a common answer. Maybe.
Yeah, thanks for the interesting presentation. Personally, also very interested in this topic. But when you talked about whether or how more jobs could be created, like especially also in the repair industry, when you said it shouldn't be done by robots, I don't know if. Yeah, in the sense of if there is a universal basic income, then this would also maybe improve the lives of people more than if they have to do a repair job, which they might not like, just to gain a revenue stream. So it's it's another dimension, I guess.
Well, I'm not saying avoid robots at all costs. I'm just saying we need to, just from this dashboard, if my robot uses too much energy, exploitative energies, then I need to look for renewable energy resources. And until such time we don't have access to the full potential of environmental renewable energies, maybe we could look at ourselves as being those energies. And I'm just saying, can we create a model which is balanced between, just saying, if you add the human sphere, you have a third sphere for innovation. But it's not mandatory. I mean, you can go for robots, you can go for very efficient systems, but like we said earlier on, if you go for too much efficiency, your system is not going to be resilient. And if you go for the easy robotic solution, then it's going to be controlled by somebody. Okay, and you will have your Google controlling, I mean, like they do today, your identity, your everything, and then it leads to inequality. And we saw that a more unequal world, what it would do. So it's a balance between efficiency and resilience that we need to maintain. And today we are too efficient, not enough resilient. So we need to find a good balance between what are all the energies available around me, and it's just from a symbiotic point of view, saying, oh, maybe I can use some of the human energy I have, because either I can't afford the robot solution, or it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make always sense. But now it's a matter of plugging in different social services within it, so we create this new model.
Thank you for your presentation. I have more like, what do you think about this question about circular economy, especially in the European Union? Also informed because I've been talking about this with my colleagues. So it seems like the circular economy right now obviously does not include human sphere. It also doesn't include the talk of sufficiency. It's about being efficient, but and also it doesn't address the issue of inequality globally and within Europe. So one of the thinking between some of us is it might be because of the international political power dynamics. China is trying, India is trying, resources getting more scarce. So maybe circular economy is another political move to retain the power in this very power fluctuating world sphere or global politics. What do you think? Why is Europe doing the circular economy? What's the main motivation, you think?
Well, I am not too much into the politics, so I wouldn't be able to answer that one. Well, sufficiency is somehow included. Again, it's not mandatory, and that's the question mark, but it's included in circular economy because in your resolve strategies, the reduce, repair, you have reduced, so you somehow it's a good start. But while Europe is moving full speed into circular economy, I think it's a power balance question where Europe is getting weaker and they just want to increase their resilience for their economic system. So definitely they see Africa rising very fast. So European Union, because sometimes I take part of those summits, they are investing heavily in circular economy in Africa. So definitely, yeah, it's a survival question for Europe. I mean, as an economic player. So obviously, between America and China and the big fives, the BRICS, Europe disappeared from the picture, and we know that we are about 25% of the market. The global GDP today, something like that, and we will go down to 12 to 10%. So that's a disappearance of Europe as an economic actor. So moving into circular economy would increase the resilience, and to me it's a good move. But again, it's a move from Western economics point of view, and we are not questioning our roles on this planet and whether we are here to make money or we are here to do something else. And that's the thing. It's still an economic model that needs to generate lots of money, and that's the only issue I raise. But now people can tell me that this is fairy tales and it's never going to happen. But at least I believe that it could somehow. Okay.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for your presentation. I liked also how you talk about like how circular is something, because I think that often the systems approach is really nice, but it's very rarely fragmentally applied like this. And you talk about that we need to change our way of thinking, things like this, but how, through education, or how are we going to change people that have, for example, that 1% that have all the wealth? Yeah, well, you know what I mean? Some people maybe start doing this, but other people don't think will ever do this. Like, how do you think you have to change people?
Are you asking me the question?
Yes.
These are the questions, the $1 million questions. Again, my answer is that since we include us as part of the solution, since all of a sudden you are considered part of the circular system, so part of the ecosystem, which we are, but we forgot because we have no contact with nature anymore. And since just as a way to say, okay, there is this issue of rebound, because this is another very efficient model, and we know that at each and every economic revolution, the model becomes more efficient, therefore there is more consumption. Okay, and this is exactly what's happening here as well. And this is also why these arrows here are claiming that we need to end recycling as well, because recycling, you need waste to go for recycling. You extract, you make, you consume, you throw, you recycle. And Circular Economy in Amsterdam published every year the report, and we used to be 9% in terms of recycling everything on the planet, and this year it's 8.6. So it's like, okay, it's even worse. So recycling is not an efficient system that do not cope with huge volumes of waste. So we need to think differently. So everybody is talking about we need to recycle, we need to select our waste properly, and so on. Yes, we need to recycle. Yes, okay. Don't get me wrong. In the next 2 to 3 decades, we will have to recycle. But if we could go for the smaller loops, the one with renewable energy, the one that repair, I mean, we would, if that bottle breaks, just a little breach on the bottle, we will develop a technology or a way of fixing it. Today, we throw it in the bin, we destroy the glass bottle into fragments to remake a bottle. Okay, so we use too much energy. So this is not very efficient as a system.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to change the behavior of the 1%, well, obviously there's going to be some revolutions and some, we are good in doing that in France.
Yeah.
So, but for the first time the British, they beat us. But I mean, there's going to be social movements. I mean, in Chile, there is a huge social movement happening, and it's not clear yet, but it's another environmental crisis. I mean, there is desertification happening all around Santiago de Chile, and this is really critical. Other collapsing states are Yemen, Lebanon, Libya. These are the first collapse that we see. So yeah, I mean, collapse is not going to happen suddenly, but it's going to be stage by stage. Cape Town, where I used to live, collapsed in terms of water access 2-3 years ago. So we are all facing that, and we just learned yesterday that there is a big ice sheet about to be separated from the Antarctic pole. So, and if it breaks, the sea would go up by 10 feet. 10 feet, New York is underwater, clearly. So it's happening quicker than we thought, and obviously the mindset and the people, I mean, we already changed our behaviors, I mean, in terms of traveling and moving around and eating, so it's going to go quicker than we think, I think. So the 1% will be seen as obsolete, but still they will exist, okay, as it shows on the NASA projection.
So you took out SDG 8, which I think is great. However, like SDG 8 is essentially the fuel of the current financial economic system. Like a capitalist structure cannot function without growth, as we know. So basically, the framework you're proposing is post-capitalist, I imagine.
Post-capitalism, post-collapse, maybe. Yeah. No, but I hope we will change fast enough. Yeah. But yes, what do you need me to answer to that? Yes. But yes, our system depends on growth. Okay, so it's how we are fueled. So obviously, there's going to be some deep change. But now I'm very humble because I'm not an economist. I'm not an academic. I'm just nobody. I'm just saying this is the way I think. Is it wrong or right? So I'm not expert in all these questions of capitalism, and I'm just thinking out loud, and that's it. But yeah, it's definitely we move away from capitalism because this is a model of life. I mean, money is not always there. It's the exchange is here. We didn't talk about how we exchange things in that model. It could be money, but it could be obviously virtual cryptography money. It could be bartering. It could be reciprocity. It could be all these way of exchanging things between human beings and non-human beings. Okay, the fact that the humans are in the center is not an anthropocentric model. Okay, it's just helping anthropocentric people understand that they belong here. Okay, and here in this graph, this sphere diminishes, or at least we focus on the service-based models, and this sphere grows. Okay, and it's the only sphere that should grow, the biosphere. Okay, to sustain our life systems.
Maybe what you can do is you can put in the linear economy, you put the human in the technosphere, and then as we get to the circular society, whatever, you bring the human you bring it back to the other circle,
But that's what I do with abundance and scarcity. Okay. That's what I try to do. Again, I also do the design myself, so if there is a designer in the room, welcome.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Thanks for your presentation. I had a very similar question related to what Martin already asked. But my question was, okay, if economic growth is out of the equation, how do you generate buy-in among companies to do all this restorative activity?
Well, one way to answer your question is you diminish the cost of life. You diminish the cost of production. Since this chair is not going to be made to be sold to this place only, as a one-off sale, this chair belongs to the producer of the chair. Therefore, all the materials in that chair belongs to the producer again. So the cost, you reduce drastically the cost of producing objects. So these objects become services, and therefore, they cost far less than tomorrow. So you don't need as much money. Not only you as human being, you still have a job somehow. What we call jobs today, maybe it's going to be called something else tomorrow. But you won't need always to be fed with money, because here it's more about exchanges of reciprocity. So you help me, I help you, or bartering, or where financial exchange is not disappear somehow. And here you still have some financial exchange, but life is less costly. You reduce the foundation of costly production systems and way of life. I mean, I don't need much money tomorrow because I don't need to buy a car, and I know consciously that I'm changing, and I know it's good, so I don't need to earn that much money. But obviously, if you read the book Le Bug Humain, the human bug, this is becoming a famous book in France. Our brain is programmed to always want more money, more information, more sex, more everything. So it's difficult. We need to fight against the way we've been programmed as well. But the idea is to lower the cost of the economic systems, to cut down the cost. Yeah.
Hi, I'm here. Yeah, so then with hearing what you're saying, it seems that you're also conceiving that there's going to be like a transformation of the role of companies, right? And because then I was thinking with the example that you were giving with the product service systems, I think there is also a dialogue going on there. For example, if we think as the systems as it is now, and like all of the objects are still belonging to the companies, what about like the poor population? I mean, I think it's like a double side gone thingy. Yeah, because if I think about my country and I think about the people that has like very little, and if one day, because we don't have a safety net like for employment, if one day they lose their employment and they cannot pay for these objects, like the service of these objects, like you're gonna take out like something that is very important for them. Yeah. So yeah, so I would like to know then how do you see like the changing role of companies? And yeah, like about these, if these models they apply like for all population.
Well, this is meant to move away from just the financial questions, because companies are made to make money, and they are still made for shareholders. Okay, we talk about stakeholders, but at the end of the year, it's for the shareholders. Even though the CSR report is great. But so if you don't move away from these questions, if you just talk to a company because they've been, I mean, all these large companies that claim to be circular or that claim to offer circular solutions, in fact, they don't change the way they function internally. And we count on new startups and new way of thinking, so the younger generation, to start from scratch, because they will move faster. And if you associate startups with large corporates, maybe the big boat might change or might not change direction. So it's a difficult question, but addressing the issue this way from an ecosystemic point of view, saying every decision you make is not for yourself, and every decision you make is across the board. Okay, this solution needs to grow the biosphere, preserve human value, and preserve the technical sphere. Then slowly but surely the value proposition of the company will change, and the structure of the company will change. I mean, in France and in other countries, in South Africa, where I was before, you have a lot more cooperatives, associations, and new way of doing business. Okay, business for purpose, business with impact, and so on. So more and more people are moving that way, and obviously you will move from more purpose, less destruction model, but the startups will change faster than the large companies. Yeah. But yeah, we need to move away from just the finance at all cost. If you include negative externalities into your decision-making process, these will be designed out. Yeah.
So I have a question now that we're talking about kind of the
the new market. Who would regulate that new market? Would it be like part of a state role? Would it be like we create a new invisible hand of new invisible circular hands for regulating that market? Like what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
A company.
All I can tell is that I go macro because your question is too specialized for me, so I won't be able to answer that. But all I can say is that this is about preserving life on Earth. This is not. Forget about the businesses. They will disappear if they don't follow ecosystemic rules. So it's about life on Earth and avoiding new collapses of state or economic systems. So it's a matter of creating some kind of the group of the wise people within which you have experienced people who have proven to be wise in their lifetime, and the younger generation. And it's a bit like decentration, where you have people who would say, if you make that decision, please do not forget that this decision must have an impact in the second and third generation from now. Otherwise, don't make that decision. So if you don't have that kind of group of the wise, like the ex-United Nations Secretary created the elders, it's not gonna work. Nobody is going to rule that world and the way it should be, in the direction it should go to. So, yeah, younger generations should definitely have a more powerful presence in some kind of ruling system, I don't know, without being dictatorial, but just thinking about three-dimensional approaches at all times.
Thank you so much for your talk. So I understand that you are presenting us a vision right now, and so my question is about your thoughts on the transition to that vision and the stepping stones that need to happen to get there. So is there something that you see as urgently needing to change, or what's the first thing that you would change to point us in this direction?
Well, the first thing I would go for is it's in the Netherlands, the taxation regime that is suggested with a balanced budget for the government, where the government needs to create that enabling environment, enabling systems with laws and regulations, and not being top-down anymore, but just enabling laws to change the way businesses are being done. So basically, since you realize that you have a stock of human increasing exponentially, you would decrease the labor tax and increase taxes on resources that are disappearing to better preserve them. Okay, so that would be the first move. But for the time being, none of the governments are. The Dutch government is looking at it, but not in the right way. So none of the government are thinking about that. So, but it exists. There is a model. It's called X-tax. Yeah, valued extractive tax. Okay, so it turns around the system. So to me, it would be a first good move. Yeah, that would change the dynamic if you want. You would not go into too much efficiency. Let's have a robot doing our job so we can go to the beach. I don't want to be at the beach all day long. I want to do something. So it's just one way of thinking, and they don't see the other human values that we have, and we need to take part of. Maybe I'm thinking like an old man, but we need to take part in the daily life activities, and it's not just about work. It's about is there a meaning of my life on this planet, and what I'm here for? Is it just to make money, or is it something else? And so if you can value, if you can create regulations and laws and taxation system and incentives that sees us as nature and that we consider us as nature, that would unleash regenerative activities. So people would, maybe it would start with half a day, some company does that on voluntary basis, but half a day a week doing some rebuilding of the ecosystem as part of your job, and then moving the jobs from destructive jobs to restorative jobs, okay, because today all the jobs that we do are mostly destructive activities. We need to consume more and we always sell something at the end of the tunnel into something which is more restorative. Yeah, that would definitely help. So shifting the way we value things in our economic systems. And the fact that you insert the humans, all of a sudden you understand value creation. Without human, you don't see value, what is valuable. So by inserting humans as a complex element in the system, you don't know where this is going, but at least you understand that there is some kind of pockets of value creation, and you need to identify those pockets of value creation and incentivize them. Yes, Hult.
Hello, thanks for your talk. So I was wondering, what do you think the role of education? So is it
huge?
Say in business school, say in business school, if you study marketing or study finance, you're being taught to increase return on investments, sell more products, and these ideas, well, from a few years ago, they're not in marketing or in finance at the moment. So how do you think, instead of just teaching it as a sustainability course, how are these ideas moving into more general business? The
work there is huge. You need to embed that thinking into each and every topics that you learn at school. So it's major. But education is the top priority. I mean, it's not me saying that. It's Walter Stahel from the Performance Economy. Walter is saying it's about measuring and preserving all stocks. Okay, and he compares that with a tube bath, where the water is running inside your. I have the picture somewhere. I didn't show it on the PowerPoint. But basically, basically you have the bath tube with the water inside the bath tube. The water is running inside the tube, and in fact, the GDP is your water coming into the bath tube. So that's what you measure in terms of economic return. You don't know what is the level of the water, your stock of resources and knowledge, education, and you don't know what water is coming out of the bath tube. So you don't know what's running out of the tube. So basically, I don't know if you have it here. Oh no, I think I deleted the slide. Sorry. But anyway, you don't know what's running out of the tube, so you don't know the level of stock of resources you have in your country, because GDP is not measuring that. And as part of the stock of resources, you have knowledge. And that stock of knowledge is also not measured. So we don't know how much knowledge we have in our countries from a stock measurement point of view. And education, the knowledge stock, should be the #1 stock to preserve. Because without knowledge, you're not going to solve anything. So that's your top #1 budget for any country. But as you know, it's not the case everywhere. So yeah, education is key, not only as a module like it's being delivered today or as we speak these years, but embedded into biology, embedded into chemistry, embedded into physics, mathematics, every topics. It should be how do we solve the life equation on Earth. Yeah. And from without talking about the geological standpoint, I mean, we are here just half a second or quarter of a second from a geological standpoint. We might be disappearing very soon. And Aurélien Barraud, a famous French astrologist, says that in a few years from now, from a cosmolytic point, science point of view, we won't even see that there have been human life on the planet, because the ice will have disappeared, so there's no track of human life from the ice. And just on the rocks, you will see a fine carbon line saying, oh, there's something wrong happened there, but we don't know what it was. Okay, let's positive. Let's be positive on the last question.
Very interesting so far. Quick comment that I recognize the importance of the elders, but in the last 2-3 years, I think
the importance of the others is what?
Elders in the equation, and I think in the last 2-3 years, the kids actually have been acting like the elders. Fridays for Future, Greta, and a lot of similar kids all around the world. But my question is again related to transition. So when we are not capable of changing the system, but what things can we do on an individual basis so that we move away from the system as we know it towards a more regenerative, human-centric system? Like 3 things I can do today for the transition.
What you can do today for
the transition towards the modern.
Which activity you should do?
As a human, act now to make impact, not waiting for the government to change, for the new tax regulation to pass, but act now.
Yeah, well, you can act in many ways. To change the world, you need to change yourself first. Okay, so change yourself first. Reconsider yourself as humus. Okay, so origin of life, and who you are on this planet, what you are here for, and how you can take part of this regenerative revolution. Okay, from destructive one today. So understand how you can do that. Change your clothes or buy a second-hand or repaired jacket. Avoid buying new. By avoiding buying new, obviously the economic system is going to have a problem, but that's what you want because it's not changing fast enough. So you need to go second-hand for everything you do. In terms of purchases, or go for repair for everything you have broken, or things breaks by themselves. The other day I had my heater and I said, okay, thank you. So repair shops and all this. In terms of food, change the way you eat. We tried yesterday to eat vegetarian, but we were told we have to have meat.
My fault.
So change, I mean, it doesn't have to be full vegetarian or vegan, it can be flexitarian. But again, I'm not the expert here, so I hope it makes sense. But yeah, change your behavior. And if you have children anytime soon, go for alternative educations, because education is critical. I mean, it programs everything. So yeah, who you are first, reconsider yourself. And within the ecosystem, see which ecosystem you evolve within, like this tree, and understand how collaboration can be developed and avoid competition. And then, change your way of living and of moving. I'm not good with transport, but I haven't taken any plane for the past 2-3 months, so it's making an effort. I take trains now, so. But the good news was yesterday that they are starting night trains again in many countries, starting with our friends from Austria. So yeah, I mean, things will change. If you change, things will change. If you don't change, and things change faster than you ever expect. Something that will say, this is stupid today, tomorrow you will see the change happening. Apparently we have shifted, 10 to 12% of the people in some countries are claiming to be ecologically minded, and the 10-12% is a threshold to start shifting the system. So that's at least that's what we use in impact assessment, in social impact assessment. So So it's interesting to see population shifting, and it's happening in France as well. There hasn't been any such increase in bike use since the strike, the SNCF strike. No, 1/3 of the Parisians are no longer using RER or metro because they use the bike. It was published 2 days ago. So you see, even Parisians are changing.
We have hope then.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Alexandre.